And welcome back to the Wayniac Nation off-season special fantasy football podcast on the Twitch show radio thing that we do here. I'm Wayne Cavada, your host, and I'm joined by two other dudes that just like to talk fantasy football, and that's what we're here to do. If you've been following along, we are in our extremely way too early preseason rankings. Thus far, we've done quarterbacks and running backs, and this week we're going to look at wide receivers. But before we get to those positions, let's welcome my legendary, iconic co-hosts from the state of North Carolina, where the weather is not finer. Dunton, how are you?
Happy St. Patrick's Day. I am doing pretty good. Under some severe weather for tomorrow, so
we have it too.
Yes, coming your way as well. So be careful, everybody out there on the East Coast, especially in the Southeast. Tornadoes everywhere. Other than that, excited about March Madness starting on Friday. Well, really playing games tomorrow night. And in a little bit, I'm going to discuss how the Bears really tried to make me look like the greatest prognosticator of all time, and the Seahawks let me down.
Yeah.
Take it away, Fee.
I don't get it. Yeah, take it away, Fee. Fanduel Fee, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
The mastermind behind our Twitch channel. How are you? Welcome back.
Well, I'm trying. We're learning as we go here, but it's been all right. And luckily there's no tornadoes up here in New York, so we're good.
So you think it's 2020 part 2. Anything can happen.
That's a good point.
So before we get into the wide receivers, we were just discussing before the show, and I had to cut them off to remind them that we actually have a show that discusses football, and we should discuss it here. The Russell Wilson proposed trade. Dutton, give it to us.
Okay, so based on the news I'm reading, the Seahawks were offered by the Chicago Bears not one, not two, but 3 first-round picks, a third-round pick, and 2 starting players currently on the Bears roster for Russell Wilson, and the Seahawks turned it down. I mean, that's like a franchise-changing trade, right? Yep. 3 first-round picks, that's a lot of first-round picks.
And a second, you said?
Third, but still a third-round pick and 2 starters. I mean, that's hard to turn down, and you're turning it down for a player who has made it very clear they are not happy, and then you didn't do anything to go and make that player happy. They didn't sign 1 offensive lineman yesterday or Monday. Not one.
Were either of the 2 players the Bears offered up a quarterback?
That doesn't say. It just says 2 starters from what I'm reading. Maybe they were going to offer up Andy Dalton after they signed him.
Yeah, a sign and trade. Well, they weren't going to offer up Tyrod, what's his name, Taylor, because the Texans, the great backup plan to Deshaun Watson is Tyrod Taylor and his pristine lungs.
Hopefully the Texans' athletic training staff is better than the Los Angeles Superchargers training staff.
That wasn't done on purpose. I don't know what was. Anyway, let's get into our rankings. So just as a reminder, both our quarterback and our running backs were consensus number 1s. Our quarterback number 1 overall early season ranking was Josh Allen. And then our running back, we all agreed, was CMC, Christian McCaffrey, at number 1. Now, again, things are evolving. Things are changing. Last week, we ranked Aaron Jones pretty low. And just several days later, he signed back with the Packers. And we said it was completely dependent on how things will change. So remember, these are our very way early projections. And we will circle back on them once in the summer. And then once again, right before the season. This is an ongoing process. And as we said, things are changing. There was already, there's been a lot of wide receiver movement already. Corey Davis is gone. AJ Green today. There's been a lot of movement. The Jets picked up a couple players. The Patriots picked up a couple receivers. So
Emmanuel Sanders, that was a big move.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. And then and Fitzmagic is now in the football teams. A quarterback slot. Yes. So that being said, we're going to move on to wide receivers. We have been doing the top 10. Wide receivers are a much deeper position and harder to pick when you get past kind of that 6th spot. So We'll leave the floor open to talk about how many you want to after 10, but we let's get rolling. Let's get right to it. Ladies and gentlemen, the way too early 2021 fantasy football wide receiver rankings. Fiamano, who do you have at number 1?
Devonte Adams. And I was ready to not put him there, except that the Packers re-signed Aaron Jones to a big 4-year deal. And I think that makes a world of difference, because now he can't be just completely isolated and double teamed the entire time because you got to worry about the run, which is what people had problems with this past year. And Rodgers is Rodgers. Another year in the coach's regime. And Adams
D2 alum, D2 football record-setting quarterback Matt LaFleur. Go ahead.
Right. And Devonta Adams is a beast. That's all there is to it. I mean, the guy, there's an argument to be made that he's the best route runner in the NFL right now. There's a lot of very good route runners. He's got to be at the very top, if not the best.
Yes.
And when you get a guy like that, with Rodgers throwing him the ball, it's just a lethal combination. And I think he's got to be the number 1 guy.
Dutton?
Devonte Adams. And I agree with everything Fee said. Aaron Jones signing is a huge, I don't think the NFL really understands the Aaron Jones signing impact for the Green Bay Packers, because you said it, Fee. It opens up so much for a quarterback who doesn't need a lot of time as it is to throw the ball. He gets it out so fast already. And you said it, his route running. I mean, watching Devonte Adams run routes is amazing because he never uses his hands at the line of scrimmage. He is all footwork at the line of scrimmage. His hands are down by his side and he's blowing past people. It's insane to watch. So yeah, I mean, with Aaron Rodgers, Devonte Adams is my number 1, and he wasn't there until they signed Aaron Jones.
I think I agree with both of you. So it looks like so far the 3 positions that we have done are consensus number 1 picks. But I'm also just going to throw out there that I don't think they have a legitimate number 2, and I think that makes Adams more important. The MVS, I mean, the guy is what was that movie? Necessary Roughness. Don't throw to stone hands.
Stone hands. Yeah.
So like he'll
pull one down every now and then.
He'll break the long ball. He'll get you the 85-yard catch, but the guy can't catch anything else thrown his way. And then what's the other fella? Lazard? Is that how you say his last name?
Alan
I do like him. And I think he could be a good number 2, but he hasn't been there yet. So I think that just increases Devonte Adams' volume, along with, like you said, the route running. If you're open and you get the volume that a quarterback that Roger provides, it's just impossible not to have.
Well, and let's remember too, really quick, like he missed games last year. Yeah, and still was dominant at his position. Yeah. So
absolutely. Moving on to wide receiver, we started with Fee for number 1. Dutton, we'll go to you for number 2.
I'm going with Tyree Kill. I think the Chiefs are going on a revenge tour this year. I'm not saying this because I'm a fan of them, but they were embarrassed in the Super Bowl. I think a lot of us were not prepared for that. And I think the Chiefs offense is going to open it up. And the only way to open it up more than they can is to get the ball more in the hands of Tyree Kill. His speed is unmatched. They can throw him a 2-yard pass, and before you know it, he's down the field for 50. So, I mean, he's going to catch the ball a lot more, I feel like. I think he's going to be more involved in short passing game, which results in long runs. So I'm going with Tyree Kill at number 2.
Fief. I said Fee.
So I can absolutely see how Hill could be everyone's number 2, especially with Travis Kelce there, who's an absolute beast, and Mahomes just doing what he does, and Hill's going to get his, and I could see the argument for him at 2. But I have Stephon Diggs at 2, and I think that Buffalo is only getting better. And Diggs was insane this past year, and I think he just continues on that tear. And we all had Josh Allen at number 1. He's got to throw the ball to somebody. And I think Diggs just completely does what he did last year. I think he does it again this year. And I got him as my number 2.
I could dig it. You see what I did there? Before I get into my number 2, I'm looking down our list. Obviously, we all put in our list on a nice little spreadsheet for the show. And Dunton, I just want to point out that when we get to him, you wrote ODB instead of OBJ.
I do that all the time. It's on purpose. Don't worry.
Anyway, moving to my number 2, I'm going with Tyree Kill. For one reason, he played D2 football, and we know that they're the greatest football players of all. But I also think it's Mahomes and the speed that gives him an extra edge over other receivers, because Mahomes likes those little slants, and that's the kind of guy that could take it 70 yards. And having that, he's the kind of guy, they have a lot of 4:00 games. They have a lot of primetime games. He's the kind of guy that can win you a game all by himself. You know, you're going into that Monday night game with the Chiefs playing some, light the Raiders, for example.
Perfect.
And, Tyree Kill and you're down 28 points, and Tyree Kill is a guy that could get you the 30 points to win it. And I think he's number 2. Not that that Diggs can't, but if the Bills want to slow the game down, and Josh Allen could do so many different things, is what I'm saying. Whereas Tyree Kill is always going to get his, and that's my only difference. Moving on to number 3, I'll take the lead because he's still the best Texans wide receiver. I'm going with a Deandre Hopkins at number 3. I know he's been hurt. I know he's a shell of the person that he was a few years ago, but I think AJ Green on the other side is going to open things up. I think Kyler Murray's stock, when we revisit our quarterbacks, I think his stock just went up a whole bunch, especially now that Kirk doesn't have to be a number 2 receiver and he can move into the slot and just fly like he does. So Kyler Murray's got a ton of weapons. And the thing about Nuke is, A, you mentioned it with Adams, is his route running. B, if he needs to use one finger, he's going to catch the ball. And that's the kind of trust. And C, he's shown in the past with Fuller and whoever opposite was, he's not going to lose his volume. It doesn't matter who's number 2. It doesn't matter who's number 3. You're always looking for Nuke, and that's why I have him at number 3. I think Kyler Murray takes a step forward this year, and if he's going to take a step forward, like you said with the Bills, then his top wide receiver has to take a step forward. Dutton.
I agree with everything you said, and we'll talk about him in a minute for me. That being said, I also agree with everything Fiamano said with Stephon Diggs at number 2, and that's where I have Diggs at my number 3. The only reason that I did not have him at number 2 is because I believe Tyree Kill is more explosive. So if you're getting bonus points for long touchdowns, things like that, I think Tyree Kill is your guy. I don't think don't get me wrong, Stephon Diggs could probably have another fantastic season, but he's not going to get you 2 55-plus yard touchdowns in a game. That's rare. Tyree Kill did that in a quarter last year.
Did, yeah.
So I think, those bonus points play a factor to help you, Wayne, with that Monday night trying to get those 28 points.
Yeah.
Stephon Diggs, you could pencil in for maybe 18 solid, and you're hoping for more, right? So that's why I have Diggs at number 3.
Fee.
So I got Tyree Kill, and you guys obviously mentioned his attributes, and he's very, very good with the ball in his hands, and he can break, huge plays, just like Dunton said. So, it goes along with everything you guys said for him with my number 2. I just have him at number 3. It's tight, between the top probably 5 or even more receivers, but I got Hill at number 3, right behind Diggs.
Yeah, that's all fair. So just a reminder, as we are ranking these, as we're doing our way too early top wide receiver ranking for fantasy football, that the keywords are fantasy football. We're not talking about the best receivers in the game. We're talking about who's going to get you the most points on your lineup and who you want to draft early. So we can just continue down the list at number 4. I don't need to say anything for my number 4 because you two have hit everything right on the head, and I have Stephon Diggs. Fee, who do you have at number 4?
I got DeAndre Hopkins, and again, same thing with what you guys were talking about. I just have him, a notch below everybody else, and I guess yes, AJ Green opens up things and Christian Kirk. I think there's just, and yes, I know what you said about volume, and he'll always get it, and he probably will. But Kyler Murray runs the ball a lot. There is a running game there, and there's a ton of weapons. So while, volume, he still gets it, I just don't think he gets enough to push him into that top 4. So that's why I have him down at number 5. But, he's still an excellent pick no matter what.
And Dutton.
So for number 4, I also have DeAndre Hopkins. And it's interesting because I'm literally looking at this totally fantasy-wise. Because best hands in the game, hands down, is DeAndre Hopkins. Wayne, you said it. I mean, as great as Devonta Adams is, DeAndre Hopkins has the best hands in football. I don't think he gets as much volume as Stephon Diggs does on the Bills. And that's why I have Diggs at 3 and DeAndre Hopkins at 4.
That's fair.
I think he's going to have another great season. I'm just worried that and it's really because of Josh Allen and Kyler Murray, right? I think Josh Allen is a step above Kyler Murray as a quarterback. I don't think Kyler Murray is going to get worse. I think he's only going to improve. But Josh Allen is a better throwing quarterback right now than Kyler Murray is. He's still very inaccurate. And DeAndre Hopkins run a lot of those sideline routes, and there's multiple times this past season where those balls were just sailing too high. So I'm worried about that fantasy-wise. But you guys touched on it. I mean, we are splitting razor-thin hairs here with these top 4. So,
and I think this is where, as we move on to number 5, I think that's the first tier, right?
Mm-hmm.
So 1 through 4, those guys are pretty interchangeable. I think you can mix those 4 guys up, and then this is where it's going to get kind of interesting. And I think you'll see a lot more, variance in our picks. So at number 5, Dutton, who do you have?
So I'm going off of our quarterback rankings from 2 weeks ago and how high we were on Justin Herbert, whatever his name is at Los Angeles Chargers. And I'm putting Keenan Allen as my number 5 wide receiver. I think that those two having a good actual offseason this year compared to what they had last year, which was very minimal, looks like training camp will be much more normal this year for the NFL. So I think that's only going to help them being able to work out more and create a really good connection. And Keenan Allen's a solid receiver. We've just been waiting for a quarterback. I mean, Phillip Rivers was down the last couple of years while he was there. We saw that last year with him on the Colts. So I think this could be a great year for Keenan Allen.
Fee.
I have Justin Jefferson. And I love everything that this guy did in his rookie year with the Vikings. I know that the Vikings are a run-first team. And yes, they have Adam Thielen there. But Justin Jefferson is as advertised, and he is a very, very good receiver. And as long as they continue to feed those 2 receivers the ball after they set up the pass with the run with Dalvin Cook, I think Justin Jefferson is gonna really show you next year why he was a top receiver this year.
That's fair. I'm going number 5. I'm going AJ Brown. I just think he's super athletic, and I think we talked about it on the running backs. Is I don't know that Derrick Henry's a 2,000-yard rusher again, so I think he'll have a little bit more opportunity for pass and to pick up some more. And that was a guy again that put up great numbers fantasy-wise, but missed a bunch this year, right? So a healthy season and normal training camp. I think AJ Brown is just going this way as a fantasy football player. So moving to number 6, I'll jump in, and I have who Fee said in Justin Jefferson. I think he was amazing as a rookie. I am always going to be way higher on Adam Thielen, however, and I still think with Jefferson, and you noticed it, and he will be better, but Thielen is still the guy inside the 20, right? And there's a reason for that. He has great hands, and he gets to the corner great, and you can somehow Kirk Cousins can still put a needle on and thread it in there and get Thielen. But I think that's the only thing that I have Jefferson not in that top tier after how impressive he was as a rookie, is that Thielen's going to get his. But I think everything you said about Jefferson is true, and he's got that long ball speed that he could just add to his profile as he gets better and better. Dutton, number 6.
I have DK Metcalf. He had a great season last year. His speed is unmatched. His size is unmatched. I think he's getting better. I'm concerned with the Russell Wilson unhappiness, but I also think Russell's a consummate professional and he's going to go out and play. I don't think Russell is, just won Walter Payton Man of the Year. He's not going to go out there and look like an idiot, right? I worry a little bit about the Seahawks offensive line, which I think is going to limit Russell Wilson's time to scramble and find DK Metcalf open downfield, which were a lot of his passes this year. But I think he has a good season ahead of him, so I put him at 6.
Fair enough. Let's keep moving. Fee, who do you got?
So I have Terry McLaurin here because I am in love with Terry McLaurin. I loved Terry McLaurin before the draft even started last year. I think he's an amazing receiver. But my only question is, who is Washington's quarterback?
Fitzmagic.
It is Fitzmagic.
Fitzmagic.
Mm-hmm. Now it is. It has to be, right?
I mean, for the last 24 hours.
I love Fitzmagic. So I love Terry McLaurin. I don't think it matters who his quarterback is, to be very honest with you. I think he's an insane receiver, and I loved him last year. I didn't get him on a few of my teams, which disappointed me. He was really good. I think he's going to be really good again. And I don't think it really matters who's around him. But even Washington has upgraded a few positions, I think, this year, and their defense is really good. So it's going to give them opportunities on offense. And I just really like Terry McLaurin. Yeah, that's why I got
Charlie doesn't like Terry McLaurin at all.
In my 6th position.
Charlie is Dutton's dog, which is you heard her yell as soon as Fee started talking about McLaurin. I think McLaurin was.
He's excited.
I'll talk about him a little bit, but I think we used him a lot in Fanduel. I think he had a lot of great matchups, and we wound up talking about him a lot this year in our Fanduel lineups on the show. So that brings us to number 7 on the way too early wide receiver fantasy football rankings for 2021, and we'll go to Dutton.
I have AJ Brown. I'm not going to talk too much about it. You said it for him at 5. I mean, I just moved him down a little bit. I think the Derrick Henry thing is concerning. You talked about it. I think Ryan Tannehill is a solid quarterback. He's proven that, but he's not an elite quarterback. So I'm worried a little bit. But all in all, I don't think A.J. Brown drops very far out of the top 10. So I think 7 is a solid spot for him. I'm interested to see what the Titans do this year. I really am. Yeah. I don't know, if they were lucky because of scheduling. You know what I mean? They're a solid team, but are they as good as advertised? Are they as good as we're watching them? So I'm interested. So,
yeah, no, that's fair. I have Keenan Allen there. I think, Justin Herbert is really the reason that I have him. And I think he is one of the best wide receivers in football, but we know the problem with him, right? He'd be in the top tier if he wasn't such a risk to miss 2 or 3 games, if not much more.
Right.
So I have Allen there, but I mean, he's got the speed, he's got the routes, and he definitely gets the volume. Now that Hunter Henry's gone, he's going to get a lot more volume too. So I have Keenan Allen penciled in at number 7. Fee, who do you have?
I have what could be a very questionable pick here, but I got Robert Woods, and it really has everything to do with Matt Stafford. And I think that McVay is going to change their offense to fit what Stafford does best, and that's throw the ball. And I think Robert Woods is the prime beneficiary of it, not Cooper Kupp. I know Cooper Kupp is very good. I think Robert Woods becomes an outstanding pick and I got him very, very high, higher than a few other guys that you could probably put ahead of him. But I'm high on Robert Woods this year, this coming year, and I think that he's going to put up some big numbers.
Yeah, I mean, because of Stafford, I think it's definitely a reach that high, but I think it's justifiable. I definitely do.
Well, and here's the thing. So that's where I rank him. I wouldn't say that necessarily to draft him that high. I think he'll fall. I think he'll be excellent value later on in like the middle rounds somewhere, early to middle rounds. But I think he'll have great value because I think a lot of these guys that we're going to end up talking about next, likely 6 or 7 more of them might get drafted ahead of him. So while I have him ranked pretty high, I think you could probably get him at great value in a middle round, early to middle round.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Moving on to number 8 on our early wide receiver projections, I have DK Metcalf, and I think it's primarily what Dunton hit. I think it was Dunton when you said him, is the Russell Wilson situation. Other than that, the guy's not human. He's huge.
Nobody should be that big and fast. You can't be both.
Scary looking, right? So, they
That
got
rundown.
Yeah, even when he's not on offense, he's
after
right.
the interception was just unreal. It was just unreal watching that. I watched that highlight over and over.
You should not be that big and that fast.
And that's the thing, right? If you hit him in stride, if he has a quarterback that's going to hit him in stride, he's gone.
Yeah, you can't.
Nobody's taking him down, and nobody's going to catch him.
No, right, exactly.
So I think Metcalf's at 8, but I think he's a guy that could break into the top, that top tier that we talked about, if Russell Wilson stays and plays the way that Russell Wilson could play. Dutton, to you.
I have Calvin Ridley, and I'm putting him there only because the Falcons have to have an offense, right? They can't just.
They always do.
Have,
it's
right.
The offense isn't the problem,
right? And Matt Ryan, down year for him, but he still puts up huge numbers. I mean, he's still going to throw you 20-something touchdowns and 4,000 yards, and if he has a really good year, he's going to be the MVP, right? I mean, he's
all the way up to the final minute of every game.
Exactly. So, I think Julio Jones is definitely on the downward side of his career. I think Calvin Ridley proved last year that he is the number 1 wide receiver on that team, and I think he comes into this season using that. I think the Falcons utilize him a lot more. So I'm going to put Calvin Ridley at 8.
I like it. Fee.
I got Keenan Allen, and just like you guys said, it's really mainly because he's a beneficiary of what Justin Herbert is likely to do again this coming year in his second year.
Yeah, it's hard to argue. Moving on to number 9, we'll go with Dunton first here. Dunton?
I have Justin Jefferson. I know you guys had him much higher. So here's the reason. At some point, the Kirk Cousins magic has to come to an end.
We say that, though, and it never does.
And Wayne, you're right. You're 100%
That guy
correct.
is the worst quarterback in football, and yet fantasy-wise, he continues to produce.
And so this year I'm banking on it coming to fruition.
Think about how much money Kirk Cousins makes. Think about how much money Kirk Cousins makes as a quarterback. Have they ever finished above 8-8 with that guy?
Nope. So
fantasy-wise, he's gold.
He is. And I think this year it's all going to come to a head. And I think Justin Jefferson suffers for it. And I don't want to see Justin Jefferson suffer for it. I don't. I like him. And Fee, you touched on it. The guy's phenomenal. He's fun to watch. He's fast. He's quick. I mean, quick. There's a difference between fast and quick. He is quick. And he's just only going to get better. But I just feel like it's going to be Kirk Cousins' fault that he's not in the top 5. That's just my forecast. So there you go.
It's definitely possible.
Yeah, for sure.
I have Ridley there at number 9. I think you said it. The Falcons always have offense. They're always going to put up yards. Matt Ryan's going to be throwing a lot, and that's what he does. And I think Julio, I don't know that I want to say Julio's in the downside of his career, but he's a guy that gets dinged up, and he's not going to play through those injuries anymore. He's going to sit out. So if that's your downside, I don't think he's lost any ability. I don't think he's lost any talent, but I don't think he's healthy. And
That's fair.
so I give Ridley the nod at the number one receiver, and in one of the top offenses consistently for the last 5 years. That's a top 10 wide receiver, especially in fantasy. So I got Ridley there. Fee.
I got AJ Brown here. He's like a little bit lesser of a version of DK Metcalf, but I think he's a better receiver, more polished. But he's a big, fast, really good receiver. And he was injured for the beginning of the year this year, and the guy still finished as like a top 6 receiver. After missing like 4 games.
Yeah.
I think he's really good. Again, the only reason why I have him so low is because of the whole Tannehill, Derrick Henry situation there. I just don't know if he can sustain good enough fantasy numbers to really put him, as a top 5 guy, which is why I got him down at 9.
Fair enough. And I think I definitely agree with what you're saying at the aspects. Moving on to number 10 and rounding out our top 10 of our way too early wide receiver fantasy football 2021 projections, I have Terry McLaurin there. I like him a lot. And again, I want to make sure we're perfectly clear here that the wide receiver position is obviously the deepest position in fantasy football. So to be top 10, no matter really where you fall, we're talking elite status, right? And I think McLaurin has reached that. I think he's proven that he is a reliable receiver. I think he can get a lot of volume. I think he could be a possession guy, or I think he could be a quick hit guy, and get you a big bonus point touchdown, if you would. And I love Fitzmagic. I'll never root against that guy. So I think they're a nice little combo. And I think Logan Thomas at tight end is a great number 2 and someone that defenses have to pay attention to. So I think that helps him out only more. And Antonio Gibson out of the backfield. And what's the fella's name? McKissick. Did I say that right?
Yep, Justin
McKissick. So you got a whole bunch of weapons that are good at receiving that are going to make sure that, you can't just focus on him. And I think he's a top 10 wide receiver. Dunton.
I have Mike Evans. And
Because you're a Bucks fan.
Well, I'm putting Mike Evans there because we're getting an entire offseason where Tom Brady can actually work out with Mike Evans now.
Yeah.
Which didn't happen last year, and they still had a really good. And if you watch the Bucks, and again, I'm not being a homer here, they got better throughout the year, right? Their offense was clicking, right? So if they're going to carry that momentum into the beginning of this season, it could be a really good year for Mike Evans. The Brady knee surgery all of a sudden has become a bigger deal. Everyone's like, oh, he's just getting his knee scoped. And now it's like, oh, it was a bigger surgery than we thought it was going to be. That's a little concerning because there is not really a backup quarterback in Tampa right now. So,
Yeah.
I think it's Blaine Gabbert. I think it's Blaine Gabbert. I really do. So that's not saying much. But yeah, I'm putting Mike Evans in the top 10. He is a top 10 receiver, and pay attention to Leonard Fournette and his situation, because if he's not on the Bucks, Mike Evans becomes a bigger goal line red zone option.
Yeah, that's true. And then rounding out our top 10, Fee?
Calvin Ridley. Same situation, with Matt Ryan and the Falcons offense. Ryan puts up the numbers, the Falcons offense puts up the numbers, and Calvin Ridley is the very clear number 1 guy there. So basically everything that you guys said. So yeah, he rounds out my top
10. So let's just move forward here. For the next 5, 6, 7 guys that you have here, I've bounced back and forth. I think it's too hard. We're clearly onto the next tier. We're on to tier 3, right? Of wide receivers. So instead of sitting here and saying, here's number 11, here's number 12, here's number 13, I'm going to pass you the mic and just talk about some of the guys you considered outside the top 10 for the next spot. Fee, we'll start with you.
All right. So right after Ridley, I got DK Metcalf. And the only thing that concerns me here is how poorly the Seahawks played on offense at the end of the year.
Yeah, they faded.
They can fix that. They can change that. They were really good at the beginning of the year last year, so it's not like they can't do it. But the problem, well, maybe not a problem, but, the Russell Wilson situation scares me a bit. If he's not happy, maybe he's not going to play all that well. I don't know. I don't know how he feels. I don't know what the situation is going to be at the start of the season. DK Metcalf obviously has the talent to be higher. Just like you guys had him pretty high, but I got him outside of my top 10. And then moving on, I have I have Michael Thomas right after that. I know that the quarterback situation in New Orleans is scary, but I think Taysom Hill figured out a few things as the games wore on. I think into his third or fourth game, Michael Thomas started to get the numbers and the volume that he was used to getting on a regular basis. And so I think that he'll figure it out there. He's not as high as, he should be probably, but it's because of that quarterback situation. I got Chris Godwin after that. It's, a similar situation to what Dunton said with Mike Evans. I just really like Chris Godwin a lot. He's younger. I don't want to say he's less injury prone than Evans, but I just think that as Brady gets older, I think Godwin becomes a better threat over the middle of the field. And then I got OBJ after that, coming back off of injury. And I don't even know if I would take him that high, just because first year back off of ACL surgery is always a tough one. But it's doable. And, he's, Baker and the Browns, they got weapons there. So, he's got opportunity. And then I got Thielen right after that because, Thielen just does what
He's
Thielen
it. Dutton, who were you considering there?
So I have Robert Woods, similar to why Fee had. He may be the surprise of the year. He might be way higher than where I have him. I also have, I'm just going to rattle off three and then talk about them real quick. I got Amari Cooper. Dak's coming back. I think the Cowboys are playing in a division, and their division is soft, and I think they can take advantage of that. I think the Giants are an up-and-coming team for sure. The Eagles are down. Who knows what's going on with Washington? But I think Amari Cooper can have a big year. And then I do call him ODB, Wayne, because it's just fun to call Odell Beckham ODB. And Michael Thomas. Fee, I agree with you. The quarterback situation in New Orleans is worrisome. It'll be interesting. I think if Jameis actually becomes a starting quarterback, I think Michael Thomas gets higher, because Mike Evans was really good with Jameis Winston as his quarterback, which is weird to think about. He throws a lot of interceptions, but he also helps his wide receivers. And Odell is interesting because of where's he going to play. Like right now he's on the Browns, but there's talk that he could be the new member of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or he could be somewhere else. So I think, yes, the injury scares me, but if he ends up on a different team, he could either go way up or way down. It'll be interesting. So that's where I'm in with the rest of my guys.
Yeah. I have Michael Thomas, Adam Thielen, Godwin, A-Rob, Allen Robinson. I love him. And then I couldn't decide. So I'm going to go T. Higgins as my next five. And I know a couple guys in there. Well, the last two I said, Allen Robinson and T. Higgins, you guys didn't mention at all. I love Allen Robinson as a fantasy receiver. I think he's a safe bet. Obviously, the Bears are trying to mix things up at quarterback. I don't know that Andy Dalton is the greatest answer, but
the Red Rocket is going to bring Allen Robinson into your top five, Wayne.
I don't think he's the final answer. I think
the Red Rifle.
He's building depth. But he's a guy that gets the volume, and he's a guy that has 7 receptions every game, 80 yards, and has the potential to be a 10 reception, 120-yard, 2-touchdown guy. And I just that's a preference. These are my rankings, and I just like that guy. I think T. Higgins was on his way to Rookie of the Year consideration until Burrows went down. Burrows probably would have been the recipient of the Rookie of the Year if he didn't go down, between him and Herbert. But I think T. Higgins will continue to improve. Obviously, we don't know the court, like you mentioned with OBJ, the kind of injury Burrows suffered. You're not always going to be instantly back into the mix of things, but we hope everything's okay. And I think Higgins takes a big step forward. I already mentioned when I talked about Jefferson, I always have Thielen very high because I think he is the guy inside the 20 still. I think he gets the bulk of the targets. Justin Jefferson may be the 120-yard guy per game, but Thielen's going to get 70 yards and 2 touchdowns like that. You can pencil it in. Michael Thomas, I think, has the potential to climb the highest or fall the lowest. And I don't like him at number 11, but I mean, you think about where in our league last year, he was the number 2 pick. He was the number 1 receiver off the board for a lot of people. And look at where he's ranking in our conversations right now. And I just have, I think what Fee said, I have Godwin over Evans. I just like him a little bit more than Evans. And then, the next names out there for me are Julio, Mike Evans, and Robert Woods. And I think any of those 3 names I just mentioned are interchangeable with any of the 5 names I just said as my next tier guys. So that's it, right?
Hey, real quick, just a couple of final thoughts here.
Absolutely, please.
It's first of all, it's too bad that A-Rob got franchised with the Bears. I feel like if he had become a free agent, he could have went somewhere that he would be much better off. I mean, I would specifically love for him to have been a New York Giant. I don't know if that's necessarily much better off, but
he's never been in a good situation, right? Like
right.
Blake Bortles has been his quarterback. Nick Foles, like Mitch Trubisky, like he just makes it happen.
I think if he would have been in New York, would have still been a better situation than he's in right now. But even if he had gone anywhere, if he had become a free agent and ended up somewhere else, I think he would have been in a much better situation. And then another name that we actually have not talked about at all is Kenny Galladay, who is a free agent.
I'll never talk about that.
We're not
guy.
even sure where he's going to go.
He is my Julio to you.
Ah, okay.
So but they don't know where he's going to go. Think about how much potential this guy had, and he's already a free agent, and nobody's jumping at him. I mean, look at the signings the last few days.
Well, I think the Lions are just going in an entirely different direction. They they traded they trade Stafford. They traded Stafford. They obviously so they let him go, and then they're letting Galladay go. I mean, Galladay's what, 24, right?
Yeah, that's the third year, right? Third year,
yeah,
I think.
The guy, yeah. So I mean, he's really young, and he was a solid receiver for them. Maybe not last year, but he had injuries that he was dealing with. I don't know where he's going to go, but I think the Lions are going in a different direction, and I don't think that's in any way a knock on Galladay.
That's fair. I think CeeDee Lamb is a guy that you got to watch out. That could be one of the biggest risers this year, and will probably be in our conversation come the end of the season for top 10 fantasy wide receivers. That is. He's kind of, I guess he would be my dark horse for biggest riser to watch in 2021. Dunton, any final thoughts?
No,
They don't call you the best color man in the game for nothing, Monty.
And here's where I'm at. I mean, I agree. There's still a lot of questions. I mean, Fiamano's bringing up the questions of Kenny Galladay, right? And we got the questions of who's the quarterback in Chicago. We got the questions of who's the quarterback in Washington. So as you leave here, just remember, we're giving you answers, but there's still a lot of unanswered questions.
We are answering unanswerable questions with unanswerable answers. Did I get that right?
Unquestionable answers.
Unquestionable, maybe.
Before we give you any more wrong information, we're going to sign off for the night. Join us next week when we will be back with tight ends. Will we have a fourth consensus?
I think that one is a
I'm going to
definite.
go out on a limb and say yes. But we will go run down the tight ends. I guess we could do the top three and end the episode early since there's no
Probably.
other tight ends in football outside the top three.
And
But just
two
kidding.
of them
We'll give
are
you
on the
top 10.
Patriots now.
Yeah, they all are on the Patriots now. Thank you as always for joining us. Watch us on Twitch at Fee. What's the thing?
It's twitch.tv/ghostbreaks.
There you go.
Watch us there every Wednesday at 9-ish. You can watch us on our YouTube channel. You could read us on the Instagram page that we have or the blog that I write and send things out to you people. Anyway, thank you for joining us. This has been really fun to do our preseason rankings. We hope you're joining them and have a great night, and we'll see you next time.